Yeah, no, I know a lot of people who, I mean, if you've got spare stuff you just want to get rid of, if you don't want, if you don't want to go into business. I mean, I've got a cousin actually who's got a garage full of old car parts, and he sort of polishes them all up and puts them on eBay, and makes reasonable pocket money, beer money, basically.
Yeah, well, that was the original concept and the way they built the business. I mean, in the beginning, eBay was just like Auction, the opposition site, and it started off just mums and dads and people selling things, and then it grew and became more sophisticated. But the new CEO in the USA, Donahue, or Donahoe, I'm not sure what it is, but he said that he wants eBay to be less like an unruly flea market and more like a strip mall. eBay, so that's basically his aim, and he outlined all these changes, including changes to the feedback system. So the way eBay has always worked in the past is that, you sell something on eBay, the person pays, then you ship the goods, then you leave feedback for them. Ideally, the seller leaves feedback first when they're paid. But then the person receives it and says, yes, it was great, it was as described, and they leave a glowing feedback, or they say, no, this was wrong. They either leave a neutral feedback, like they weren't impressed, but it was okay, or they leave a negative feedback, and then people buying from that seller know, well, just keep an eye on this person, the goods might not be exactly as described. Or they might, the seller might have mostly positive feedback, and therefore, it's up to the buyer to decide then, and both buyer and seller get a good idea. And the same with sellers, they can study the feedback of a buyer, and if the person has got a negative feedback saying, oh, they didn't pay, promised to pay, but didn't da-da-da-da-da, or whatever, then they know something about
They're dealing with someone who's sus, yep.
But under the new changes that Donahue has instigated, sellers after May, I think, won't be able to leave anything other than positive feedback. So it's a one-sided system. And sellers here and in the US are arguing that it will encourage the bad buyers on eBay, of which there are a minority, but they are there, who have the ability through PayPal to charge back the seller's credit card, say they didn't receive, charge back to the seller's PayPal account, say they didn't receive the goods, and make a spurious claim, which PayPal, in some cases, this has happened many, many times in the US and here, the buyer has ended up with the goods and the payment from PayPal for the claiming they haven't got the goods.
Right.
In some cases, the seller has even sent PayPal the proof of a receipt, like a signed receipt, because in fact PayPal's legendary and alleged protection in inverted commas actually only comes into force when a set of things, criteria are met. Quite a convoluted process actually for getting anything back. So the alleged protection could be put there anyway, and there should be safety for buyers. Of course there should be, but
absolutely,
it should also be safe for sellers, and sellers should also have a right to say how they feel about the transaction, one would think.
Yeah, no, you think so. Well, look, I'm going to just go to a song now, because we need to break things up a little bit here. If you want to stay on the line, we'll continue this discussion after this next track.
Fantastic.
And that was Lunacy Boatman, Island Love Song. And on the line I have our very keen, dedicated eBayer, Ross Patterson. Ross, are you there?
Hi Ian, how are you?
Yeah, very good, mate. Now, we are not the only media outlet who has taken up this story. Apparently there was a bit of action on 2GB last week.
Correct.
Complaining about this same issue, and I did listen to it. It's up on YouTube, actually. Somebody stuck it up on YouTube, and you can actually download that where there is a discussion, and he actually opens the lines up, which we'll do here as well. If there's anybody out there listening who has a point of view and an opinion on this eBay situation and would like to get themselves on air and have a bit of a chat about it, if you could call the station on 98228893 within the next half hour, and we'll see if we can get you on and listen to your point of view. But Ross, let's get back to your point of view.
Okay, and well, firstly I'd just like to make the point that over 10,000 eBayers have signed a petition to eBay and the ACCC opposing the proposed changes to implement this PayPal-only edict, which comes into force in May if not knocked out by the ACCC. So the last line of defence now is that the ACCC reject it, and we certainly hope that they have the interests of Australians in general at heart, and they do see what a bad thing it would be if these changes came in. So there's a petition already signed by 10,000 eBayers. There's also hundreds, if not thousands, of submissions in opposition to eBay's notification to the ACCC that have gone in.
Uh-huh.
And the other thing that's happened is that there's a possibility, and it's not confirmed, but that the Reserve Bank actually have an interest in this matter and may make their own submission to the ACCC, also opposing the submission by eBay.
Right, so it's not a done deal. We can
It's not completely done, but I think people are really up in arms about it, and they're really watching this decision. I mean, it's got to be one of the most closely watched decisions around, and we're really hoping that the ACCC realise what it is. I think the point, we were discussing off air is the fact that if Westfield, for instance, brought in a rule that in their shopping centres every purchase you make must be done on the Westfield card with its associated interest costs and everything.
Charges and all the rest of it.
That's right, that you wouldn't be able any longer to pay by EFTPOS or any other method. You would have to pay by their credit card. Then I doubt that it would last, the submission would last 5 minutes. I think the ACCC would reject it out of hand. Well, isn't this the same thing? I mean, this is a massive online mall with 45% of the Australian market, allegedly. And it is very well patronised, which is why people are so keen to fight these changes, because people do like eBay, but they are also really sick of all these changes that are going on that are messing up what was a good business.
Yeah, it seems ridiculous, doesn't it? Like they had something that's working, but it's not broke, why fix it, to quote John Howard, but they've got some new CEO in there, some young gun dude who just thinks that he can make it all that much better, but it just seems like he's just stuffing everybody around.
Well, they've also been highly annoying because the Vice President of eBay in Australia, Simon Smith, has had his face plastered all over eBay and trying to shove the changes down our throat as being for safety. But, I mean, they clearly are a money grab. I mean, everybody, Blind Freddie could see, with excuse, no insult to blind people because it's not what I mean, but anybody could see that it's simply a money grab. I mean, they could make eBay safer without charging 2.4% on every a transaction you never paid that additional charge for before.
Sure. By
simply paying through your bank. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, and you were saying that on 2GB they actually interviewed the woman from PayPal. A representative
from PayPal, and she made a few. I don't think came across very well at all. I think you would say that she didn't win the debate.
Well, she was just bloody minded and kept returning to message and saying this is good and this is better and we're making things better and safer, and she didn't,
that's eBay, who you can't phone, and yet, when she was on air it sounded like, oh yes, I'll personally answer your call. I mean, it's all just lip service, to be honest. I mean, here's a company, eBay, that have no phone support at all. You cannot ring eBay.
Right, so if you have a problem with eBay, you email them.
And you wait up to 24, 36 hours to be responded to if they deem it appropriate to do.